Shalom Yisrael. Want to start by giving all praise to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, double honors to the Apostle GMS and to the Elder Apostle GMS, and honor to you brothers doing the work in truth, what sincerity. Now, one thing I've been meditating on is this whole abortion thing, man. Because you get all of these people that go, so what if she's been raped? It's a thing. She's a victim of incest. That should surely be a reason to think about, to basically allow and accept abortion on those terms. So I basically, I did some of the research on the whole topic, and I'm just gonna read a few articles for you, because man, if I can just go, I'll save that for later. So this is basically an article from this website that you can see here, abortionfacts.com. Right, and I'm gonna jump down to this paragraph. You can read all of it if you wish, but the first couple paragraphs is just preamble for the most part. So it says the reason most people reach the wrong conclusion about abortion in cases of rape and incest is that the actual experience of sexual assault victims who became pregnant are routinely left out of the debate. And why is that? Because ultimately, the elites are all about this, destruction of the family. They want to take the world's population down from 7 billion to 500 million, and this is a nice legal way that allows them to do that. Okay, so most people, including sexual assault victims who have never become pregnant, are therefore forming opinions based on prejudices and fears which are disconnected from reality. For example, it is commonly assumed that rape victims who become pregnant would naturally want abortions. And that's a good point, because whenever people bring up this argument against you, that's the main argument they come with. But Lord's will, I can bring out some facts that you can shut down anyone that comes with this whole rape, incest, this, that, and the other. When it comes to abortion, man, because it's just murder, man. And for the most part, because Margaret Sanger, I'm going to put the video up at the end or beginning of this video. Margaret Sanger, her thing was basically put the abortion clinics and all of that sort of stuff in the neighborhoods where Jake lives, because then that way that's always a way out for them, which is why the majority of abortion cases are Jake. Okay, so but in the only major study of pregnant rape victims ever done, Dr. Sandra Muckhorn found that 75 to 85% chose against abortion. This evidence alone should cause people to pause and reflect on the presumption that abortion is wanted or even best for sexual assault victims. Now I did, because that's the thing, whenever you're looking up numbers, you always have to, check, the sample group, and the sample group for this was only like 79 people, and it was done in 1979. So, take that one with a pinch of salt. But it goes on to say, says several reasons are given for not aborting. First, approximately 70% of all women believe abortion is immoral, even though many also feel it should be legal choice for others. That whole, and for the most part, it's that whole, if she's been raped, she's a victim of incest, this, that, and the other. It says approximately the same percentage of rape victims believe abortion would be another act of violence perpetuated against their bodies and their children. Second, some believe that their child's life may have some intrinsic meaning or purpose which they do not yet understand. The child was brought into their lives by a horrible, repulsive act, but perhaps the Most High or fate will use the child for some greater purpose. Good can come from evil. Because now they're going on that whole emotional thing of rape, this, that, and the other. But according to the scriptures, she's a virgin, she's not betrothed, and you deal with her however way you want. She's your woman. She can try and cry about it, but she's your woman. The only time rape is going off is if she's actually someone's wife, or if she's betrothed to someone, because then that becomes adultery. Okay, so it says, what did I just, okay, so it says, third, victims of assault often become introspective. Their sense of value of life and respect for others is heightened. They have been victimized, and the thought that they in turn might victimize their own innocent child through abortion is repulsive. Fourth, at least at a subconscious level, the victim may sense that if she can get through the pregnancy, she will have conquered the rape. By giving birth, she can reclaim some of her lost self-esteem. Giving birth, especially when conception was not desired, is a totally selfless act, a generous act, a display of courage, strength, and honor. It is proof that she is better than the rapist. While he was selfish, she can be generous. While he was destroying, she can be nurturing. So they got them emotives in there to sway your perception. It says, if giving birth builds self-respect, what about an abortion? This is a question which most people fail to even consider. Instead, most people assume that an abortion will at least help a rape victim put the assault behind her and go on with her life. But in jumping to that conclusion, the public is adopting an unrealistic view of abortion. Let me just see if the jump straight down. Let's see if there's okay, so I'll read this paragraph. It says, abortion involves a painful examination of a woman's sexual organs by a masked stranger who is invading her body. Once she's on the operating table, she loses control over her body. If she protests and asks for the abortionist to stop, she will likely be ignored or told it's too late to change your mind. This is what you wanted. We have to finish now. Because at this point, they've all ripped the baby up into shreds, man. Slukia says, and while she lies there tense and helpless, the life hidden within her is literally sucked out of her womb. The difference: in a sexual rape, a woman is robbed of her purity. In this medical rape, she is robbed of her maternity. You feel that? Okay, so it says, second research shows that after any abortion, it is common for women to experience guilt, depression, feelings of being dirty, resentment of men, and lowered self-esteem. What is most significant is that these feelings are identical to what women typically feel after rape. Abortion, then, only adds to and accentuates the traumatic feelings associated with the sexual assault, rather than easing the psychological burdens of the sexual assault victims. Abortion adds to them. It says, this was the experience of Jackie Backer, who reports, I soon discovered that the aftermath of my abortion continued a long time after the memory of my rape had faded. I felt empty and horrible. Nobody told me about the pain I would feel within, causing nightmares and deep depressions. Okay. So the case against abortion of incest pregnancies is even stronger. Studies show that incest victims rarely, and listen to this, studies show that incest victims rarely ever voluntarily agree to an abortion. Instead of viewing the pregnancy as unwanted, the incest victim is more likely to see the pregnancy as a way out of the incestuous relationship, because the birth of her child will expose the sexual activity. So it says, she is also likely to see in her pregnancy the hope of bearing a child with whom she can establish a true loving relationship, one far different from the exploitative relationship in which she has been trapped. But while the incest victim may treasure her pregnancy because it offers her hope of release and the hope of finding and nurturing love, her pregnancy is a threat to the exploiter. So it's so all this abortion thing, people, like I was saying, people throw around this this belief that all incest victims want to get abortion. This is telling you that really and truly all it does is it gives in you've heard the stories of, oh yeah, mom's boyfriend did this, that, and the other. All it does is help to mask that. So, whenever someone comes with that argument there, you just tell them, nah, on a level, that's not what I want. That's, For example, Edith Young, a 12-year-old victim of incest impregnated by her stepfather, writes, 25 years after the abortion of her child, throughout the years I've been depressed, suicidal, furious, outraged, lonely, and have felt a sense of loss. The abortion, which was to be in my best interest, because at the end of the day, you're a young child. You got this old man, someone like you're supposed to be like your father, who basically wants to hide his acts. He doesn't want anyone knowing what he's been getting up to. He's gonna tell that little girl, look, it's in the best interest. You have to do this, that, and the other. Yeah. And that's it on that. So now this is from this is data from the. Now let me just read it. In 1988, the Alan Guttmacher Institute conducted a survey of women who were getting abortions, asking why they had made this decision. They received responses from 1,900 women at 27 abortion clinics and 3 hospitals. The results were printed in Family Planning Perspectives, Planned Parenthood's magazine. Both the Guttmacher Institute and Planned Parenthood are pro-abortion. Alright, so when you look at these numbers, you can't say, this is pro-life people who are trying to, fix the figures to make it look better on themselves, to help argue against the whole rape and incest argument. This is from pro-abortionists who are bringing out this data. And if you look at the numbers here, okay, so it says woman is concerned about how having a baby could change her life, 16%. Woman can't afford a baby now, 21%. Woman has problems with relationship and wants to avoid single parenthood, 12%. But let me just get to the point. Woman was victim of rape or incest, 1%. Right? And if you look at the one down here, it says deformed baby, less than 3%. Threat to life or health of mother, maybe 3%. Rape and incest, 1%. Mother has social problems, 93%. Because at the end of the day, abortion is a totally selfish act. And who do you have to blame for that? Esau, the so-called white man, the devil, the wicked. He's put women into this position where they literally have power over life and death. If you was to kill a woman with a child, that's double homicide. So why is it any different when a woman decides to go to flipping abortion clinics? So it is 54,559,615 abortions since Roe versus Wade decision in 1973. Now you can look up that little court case there. It says a new estimate published by the National Right to Life Committee indicates that they have been an estimated 54 million abortions since the Supreme Court handed down its 1973 decision allowing virtually unlimited abortions. Although the March for Life took place today, yesterday was the 39th anniversary of that case. Now, if you 55 million, let me put that into perspective. The population of the United States right now is around 330 million. 55 million people. 55 million babies have been murdered during that period of time. If this was an African leader, so-called, who had killed 55 million people, you think the US wouldn't have gone and brought out the whole military against this man? Think this man wouldn't be down at flipping at The Hague for crimes against humanity? If this is a crime against humanity, 55 million abortions since 1973. So the analysis also found that the best estimate for the current number of annual abortions in the US, involving both surgical abortions and procedures as well as the dangerous abortion drug RU486, is 1.2 million. 1.2 million abortions each year. And this is just data for the United States. This is just data for the United States. So how about worldwide? And the thing is, in the next article I'm going to read, it's basically just going to show you that although these numbers are there, it's not that they're not actually full numbers. So Governor Rick Perry marked the 38th anniversary of what he called the tragedy of the U.S. Supreme Court's landmark Roe versus Wade decision by speaking to fellow abortion opponents at the January 22 Texas Rally for Life outside the Capitol building. Perry said that since the 1973, which established abortion as a constitutional right, 50 million children have lost their chances. That is a catastrophic number. Alright, did I mark something out? So it says here, you can read the whole article, it says, we also saw abortion numbers from other sources. Data from the CDC indicate that there were 37.8 million abortions from 1973 through 2006. However, according to the CDC's website, states are not required to report abortion information to the agency, so in some years the numbers are incomplete. For example, the CDC's 2006 data do not include information on abortions in California, Louisiana, or New Hampshire. And like I was saying, that number could be significantly greater than the 50-something million. And then they basically say down here, we rate Perry's statement true. And then I remember I've lost the data now, but when I was basically looking up, it was basically something like 33,000 victims of rape or something like that. But 1.2 million babies are being aborted. And now to jump onto the black woman. Right, so approximate number of African American deaths since 1973, based on statistics available from the US CDC. Like I said, this number here, the abortion number, could be greatly higher than that. It could be greatly higher than that, because don't forget, these are the same people that said only a few hundred people died in Panama. When the US went over there, when the numbers, from independent research was, found it was more like 2,000, when the US was only saying around 500. It's like how the US is saying today, only a couple 100,000 Iraqis have been killed in the Iraq War, when other institutes are saying, no, it's more like 1 million. Because they always try to hide their wickedness, man. So AIDS, 292,000. Violent crimes, 306,000. So if you see that, so they call them niggas this, niggas that, killing each other. 306,000 since 1973. That's a big number, and it says just through to 2001. So that's been 14 years since this 11 million was given out. So violent, talk about how niggas this, niggas that, 306,000. But wait, Esau, because of Esau, 11 million from 1973 to 2001, Jake's children were killed. Like I said earlier on, if this was Joseph Kony, Robert Mugabe, Colonel Gaddafi and all of them, man, they'd be in The Hague right now, killing 11 million. In fact, you'd have many more military bases in those countries, because why? The US would have gone over there and said, oh, you're killing 11 million people. You've killed 11 million people in this period of time. You have to be put to death. Oh, well, not put to death, but we have to do something about you. And in Colonel Gaddafi's case, he was put to death. Alright, so this is in 2012. There were more black babies killed by abortion 31,328 in New York City then were born there. 24,758. The black children killed comprise 42.4% the total number of abortions in the Big Apple. This is just on black women, so imagine when you add in the Latin women as well. But like I said, who do you have to thank for this? You have the so-called white man to thank for this, man. 55 million. This is Exodus. Now jump onto scriptures. Exodus 21 and 22 says, if men strive and hurt a woman, that's lucky, and hurt a woman with child, so that her fruit depart from her, and yet no mischief follows, he shall be surely punished according to the woman's husband will lay upon him, and he shall pay as the judges determine. And if any mischief follow, then thou shalt give life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burning for burning, wound for wound, and stripe for stripe. So what's that telling you? That's telling you plain and simple that a woman with child, a life in a child's womb, in a woman's, Salakia, a baby in a woman's womb is counted as life. Because so get up the next scripture. It says Genesis 35 and 16. It says, and they journeyed from Bethel, and there was but a little way to come to Ephrath, and Rachel travailed, and she had hard labour. And it came to pass when she was in hard labour that the midwife said unto her, fear not, thou shalt have this son also. And it came to pass as her soul was departing, for she died, that she called his name Benoni, but his father called his name Benjamin. And Rachel died and was buried in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. And I only brought that out to basically show you, Rachel died giving birth, but the child survived, because that's what the Most High wanted. If the woman's gonna die from giving birth, that's what the Most High wanted. Because at the end of the day, the Most High is the one that basically, he has the power of life and death. You know what I'm saying? So lucky, I'm just looking up some numbers on my phone. Is that I was basically saying. So it says it was 32,000 rape pregnancies a year, right? So they basically like saying, what if the woman's a victim of rape, this, that, and the other? What? There's 32,000 rape pregnancies a year, but there are 1 million abortions. 1 million abortions, but 32,000. That's you feel me? Like we read this statistic here. Rape and incest accounts for 1% of all abortions. This is just the US. So it says Jeremiah 1 and 5 says, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee a prophet unto the nations. When I'm bringing that out, because you have these women, they think just because they're holding the baby that they're the ones that are the ark, that basically think that it's their child. No, it's the Most High that created that child within you. Because these women nowadays don't seem to understand. Whereas in 2 Maccabees 7 and 22, and this is a good read, especially considering the time that we're coming into, the whole chapter that is, of the 7 brothers and how they got tortured for this truth. It says, and I cannot tell how, this is 2 Maccabees 7 and 22, says, I cannot tell how you came into my womb, for I neither gave you breath nor life, neither was it I that formed the members of every one of you, but doubtless the Creator of the world, who formed the generation of man, and found out the beginnings of all things, will also of his own mercy give you breath and life again, as ye have now, as ye now regard not your own selves for his law's sake. And that's, reiterating the point that I made in Jeremiah 1 and 5. Because she had an understanding that actually these children came of me from the Most High. So just because you have a baby in your womb, don't mean it's yours. It's the Most High that gave you that child. And by you going to them abortion clinics and killing that child, you're marked for death for that. That's murder. And you know what? That's why we have to deal with Esau. So with that, I'm just going to close up and say shalom. Hope you brothers were edified, and I'll put the links up down there. You can do more research, and if you find something of interest as well, you can just post it up on the comment board and that sort of thing. And and I mean, like I was saying, these feminists, man, they'll try to push this shit on you, but a lot of the time they're coming with that emotion, man, without any facts. Because going back to this, the top of this one, it says, unfortunately, most pro-lifers have difficulty answering these challenges because the issue of sexual assault pregnancies is so widely misunderstood. Especially them beta males as well. They have women shouting, oh, how can you say that? What if she was raped? What if it was incest? Well, I've just given you the facts. I've given you the numbers. 1% of all abortions in the US alone. So that's not factoring in Gook land over there. That's not factoring in Africa. That's not factoring in India. That's not factoring in the UK. Just look at this number again. 55 million. This man's the devil, man. So that good brigade Barak the How, Barak the Al Shai, Barak the How, Barak the Al Shai, Barak the How, Barak the Al Shai. Shalom.
I'm Michael Hitchborn, and this is the American Life League Report. The federal government already funnels hundreds of millions of dollars to Planned Parenthood every year, so it should come as no surprise when it funnels your money to celebrate its founder. The Smithsonian National Portrait Gallery recently opened a new, federally funded exhibit that, according to the museum's curator, celebrates women who have challenged and changed America over the past century. Included in the list is notorious liberal feminist Margaret Sanger. The National Portrait Gallery website provides a brief description of Sanger, describing a concerned crusader who fought with the courage of a wounded tiger for the promotion of birth control. What the Smithsonian exhibit fails to mention, however, is that Margaret Sanger founded the largest abortion chain in the country, now known as Planned Parenthood. But the exhibit also fails to explain the racist ideology behind Sanger's promotion of birth control. Many people don't really know what eugenics is. Eugenics is defined as belief in the possibility of improving the qualities of the human species by discouraging reproduction by persons having genetic defects or presumed to have inheritable, undesirable traits. Essentially, eugenics is the creation of a master race by controlling who has children and who doesn't. An article appearing in the January 31st, 1922 edition of the New York Times bore the headline, "Mrs. Sanger says Superman is the aim of birth control." If creating a race of supermen is the goal, who did Sanger believe had genetic defects or undesirable traits that stood in the way? In his book, Birth Control, Facts and Responsibilities, Adolf Meyer quoted an essay Sanger wrote in 1925, entitled, "The Need of Birth Control in America."
Birth control is not merely an individual problem. It is not merely a national question. It concerns the whole wide world, the ultimate destiny of the human race. In his last book, Mr. H.G. Wells speaks of the meaningless, aimless lives which cram this world of ours. Hordes of people who are born, who live, yet who have done absolutely nothing to advance the race one iota. Their lives are hopeless repetitions. All that they have said has been said before. All that they have done has been done better before. Such human weeds clog up the path, drain up the energies and the resources of this little earth. We must clear the way for a better world. We must cultivate our garden.
In 1922, Sanger wrote a book entitled The Pivot of Civilization. In it is a chapter called The Cruelty of Charity, where she blasts programs that provide medical and nursing facilities to slum mothers as insidiously injurious. In the same book, Sanger called for the cessation of charity, for the segregation of morons, misfits, and the maladjusted, and for the sterilization of genetically inferior races. She also argued that organized attempts to help the poor was the surest sign that our civilization has bred, is breeding, and is perpetuating defectives, delinquents, and dependents. The Birth Control Review was Sanger's official publication for the American Birth Control League, and in 1932 she outlined her plan for peace.
The main objectives of the Population Congress would be to apply a stern and rigid policy of sterilization and segregation to that grade of population whose progeny is already tainted, to give certain dysgenic groups in our population their choice of segregation or sterilization, and to apportion farmlands and homesteads for these segregated persons where they would be taught to work under competent instructors for the period of their entire lives.
Sanger's admiration for the eugenics programs of Nazi Germany were well known at the time. In 1933, the Birth Control Review published Eugenic Sterilization, an Urgent Need, by Ernst Rudin, who was Hitler's director of genetic sterilization and the founder of the Nazi Society for Racial Hygiene. In her praise for the eugenics programs in Germany, Sanger called for the implementation of such programs in the United States, specifically targeting African Americans. The following editorial was published in the 1932 issue of the Birth Control Review.
The Negro problem is one of the most complicated and important confronting America. Whatever the ultimate answer may be, such an attitude brings to light the function of birth control as a necessary agency in its solution. The present submerged condition of the Negro is due in large part to the high fertility of the race under disastrously adverse circumstances. Thus, the question arises, to what extent birth control has had a eugenic effect upon the Negro race?
If any question should remain about Sanger's racist agenda, a 1939 letter she wrote to Dr. Clarence Gamble should remove all doubt.
We should hire 3 or 4 colored ministers, preferably with social service backgrounds and with engaging personalities. The most successful educational approach to the Negro is through a religious appeal. We don't want the word to go out that we want to exterminate the Negro population. And the minister is a man who can straighten out that idea if it ever occurs to any of their more rebellious members.
Can there be any wonder why Planned Parenthood opens its facilities in poor inner-city neighborhoods populated by minorities? Can there be any doubt that Sanger's philosophy of creating a pure race is what fuels Planned Parenthood's support of embryonic stem cell research? Margaret Sanger was a racist. She's responsible for the millions of babies that have been ethnically cleansed from our country and should not be celebrated by the taxpayer-funded Smithsonian. Please visit the website and contact the Smithsonian demanding that materials on Sanger be removed from the exhibit. For American Life League, I'm Michael Hitchborn.